Givanni, no O. June Givanni Pan-African Cinema Archive.
And just to say, I mean, June's dedication for doing this for over so much years, right? And the project just gets, well, it gets richer and richer, but it gets more and more important. You know, maybe there's a discussion here in the university about decolonizing the curriculum, but also the archive, right? And this is really important work, and if you like, June is doing what she was telling us to do, which is actually to do what's important for you, and then the value will be seen even more so later on down the line. So, I mean, we've got a big thanks for June and the filmmakers that I've met through, well, I knew some of them before, but the June's events that she's organised.
I must say, I didn't set out to do an archive. I'm a film curator. I've been programming black film in the Caribbean, in America, on the African continent, and here, Black British Film. That's why it's called Pan-African Cinema. And I've been doing that for 35 years. But I was doing it in the pre-digital age. So you would actually collect materials that you use in your, I call them my currency, that you use and information, and so you collect them physically. So my archive actually consists of a hell of a lot of VHS and pneumatic tapes that need to be digitized, and audio cassettes, lots of interviews, and so major posters, and physically some of it becomes very important. I mean, art students desperately want to get hold of the Cuban silkscreen posters that are in mine, because they can only see them digitally now. A lot of this stuff only exists, but I didn't set out to do it. I set out to gather it because I thought it was important. This was, you know, there were films taking place in all of these territories, and I did believe that there was a Pan-African connection. It was the work I was doing, and I needed to collect them. So, as I say, history will determine, or the future generations will determine whether it's of use or not, and hopefully it is. I'm still, you know, trying to make it available as much as possible, and hopefully there will be an opportunity to digitize, and we're doing some of that.
I just want to say that it's such an important thing that you've been doing, and I don't know whether this is working or not, but I may know somebody that can help you with that, to digitise it, so I'll find out and get in touch. So you probably know people yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I do, obviously, to be able to use it, you see, I do put some material on DVD, because I'm also, you have to be able to protect it, to preserve it, but it needs proper digitization onto full digital files, and we're talking maybe 500 or 600 titles, plus a lot of paper material in different formats, audio. There's you know, it's a big digitization.
Thank you for that question, because that really helps the discussion. Who else would like a question, to put a question? Yes, there's a gentleman in the middle at the back there. Thank you.
Question for June. You must have been on an island at the time of deciding to start this archive and experiment in film as a black person and as a woman. Who or what mentored you?
What mentored you?
Who or what mentored you?
I wasn't on an island. I wasn't on an island. I wasn't mentored as an archivist in particular. As I say, I collected it for my own use as a curator. But the people who were doing this work, you would know. Jim Pines is one of them, who was already, he was a black programmer. He was already at the British Film Institute from the late 60s, early 70s, and he was writing a lot. He was curating and programming at the Commonwealth Institute, that fantastic place at the time. Thing is, there were big institutions like that. There was the, you know, in Horace's time, and in our town, there were those institutions which you could actually engage with in different ways. And Jim was a curator there, Paminda Veer as well. You know, there were people around, and it was through Paminda that I actually started working with the Ethnic Minorities Unit at BFI, and that's when we did the Third Eye Festival of Third World Cinema in 1983 that brought African American directors, Cuban.
Spike Lee?
No, not Spike, but no, but yeah, we showed. Well, no, he came a bit after, but Haile Garima, Bill Gunn. There were a lot of classic, you know, African American and African and Indian and Latin American, because third cinema was a concept, a revolutionary concept that came from Latin American cinema. So we had Miguel Litin from Chile, the Cubans were there, and it was this big 2-week film festival. Rio, the Ritzy, and the one in Bloomsbury, and then some of it went to Birmingham as well. But it was that moment, and it links right back to Horace and this stuff. It was part of that whole trajectory, that whole journey. So yes, there are people that, and also there were people who were doing this in the US that I'd already had connections with, because I was working, yes, from Charles Burnett, Haile Garima, and both UCLA and also Boston.
I think what's so great about this, it shows like the traditions that we can draw on even now, and that's, you know, because that's these archives and the history and the living history is a resource for us to go on, and so we don't have to reinvent and do everything over again from fresh because it's been done before. And one of the things I've been very encouraged working with young people here, my students and others, is the respect and interest that the younger generations have in the past. I always feel is greater than we had when we were their age coming up, and I think that's. For me, that's one of the very encouraging things that is happening now. We've got time for 1 or 2 more questions before we start the screening.
That's one more question.
If there's nobody else. There's a gentleman there. We have the first question is, but yeah.
Yeah. Horace, you said the film was shelved after it came out, and was it later on picked up at all in the community? How did it? How long was it before it gained an airing, essentially?
Funny enough, that's one question I really don't know myself. As I said, when I made Pressure and I finished it, and the premiere was there, I didn't walk away. It's just the way it goes, you know. So it wasn't until years later that people speak to me going, "Oh, using that film Pressure?" I'm going, "Yeah." "Oh, it's going to be shown on Channel 4. I'm like, "What?" "Yeah, it's shown on Channel 4. So, okay. A couple of months later, "Oh, did you see that film Pressure? It was showing on London Live." So somewhere along the line, somebody got hold of it and said, "Well, okay, it's political, but it's relevant now, you know." So when it started, who started it, I haven't the faintest idea, but I knew it got out there.
So this was fairly recently.
Pardon?
Fairly recently.
No.
No, it's been showing for years.
Yeah, good.
So it has been showing for you know, decades now. So it has been showing, it's been around. But at the time he's talking about Channel 4, that would have been about 84, that it came into being. It came into being with a particular brief to actually address gaps in serving the viewing public and black community and diversity was one of those areas. And so Channel 4 would have been something that would be trying to make their mark in that direction by showing this film. And because the film had already begun to make its own and demonstrate its popularity in an underground way, not through major film cinemas, but in between communities and through you know, cross information in between the arts sectors. It was something that someone, you know, an organisation like Channel 4 picked up on, and it was.
Just let me say something about, and that was, in a way, it was Pressure and a few other films that, if you like, demonstrated that there was an audience that was not being served by the established media. Because there weren't X number of channels, there were 3 channels, right? BBC 1, BBC 2 and ITV. And Channel 4 in the early 80s was the new kid on the block, and its remit was specifically to serve audiences that were not considered to be mainstream audiences. And so, you know, that's the era where I came in, was able to have my films commissioned by Channel 4, so I'm very grateful for that. But that wouldn't have happened if these earlier films like Pressure hadn't, if you like, proved the case, right? Not just in terms of artistic merit, but also about political relevance, because Channel 4 wanted to be, inverted commas, edgy, right? But also in terms of basically the audience was there, and there was a, well, as we say now, a gap in the market that wasn't being an unmet need. That's as Ed said.
And it was an audience that went beyond the black community. And it's the thing, once you put it out there, then people can appreciate it, because essentially it's a good film. It's a film. It was an early film.
Thank you. But the funny thing about it is, when they did show Pressure, it was always late at night. You know, sometimes it'd be like 1 o'clock a.m. in the morning. But the only funny thing about it is, I'll have a knock on my door, 1 o'clock in the morning. It's my neighbour from across the road going, "You're on TV, you're on TV, you're on TV." Or funny enough, I'll be upstairs in my room or whatever it is, and sometimes my mum will watch TV late at night, and I'll say, "Oh, I recognise that voice." "Oh," and I'll go down there, my mum's watching the film. She's going, "What?
I know which scene she I know that scene late in the film.
But yeah, no. As I was saying, it was great that it was out there. But why not put it 7 o'clock in the evening? You know, why did they have to hide it away 1 o'clock in the morning where people are
adult things?
You know, yeah. But I mean, so many films now. You look on the internet, you see things. Pressure was mild compared to what is going on now. You know, so.
Okay, but I think we've had enough chat, and I think you deserve to see the film now. So I'd just like to thank our panellists, right, Herbert, very much, and June very much, and for you for your questions and engagement with this thing. So let's give ourselves a round.
My colleague Elizabeth, who introduced the session, I had to run off to her little one, so I just want to say my thanks again. We're about to set up the film. I need to apologize. We've had a technical issue, which you probably realized at the beginning, and although we had a lovely technician pull over on the side of the highway and remote into our stuff, we haven't been able to make it work properly, so we have our second best option. And my colleague just pointed out that it will feel more like you're in a living room watching the film as a family. So we'll get our screen set up in just a moment. We'll give you a break. All this furniture moves around, so we'll be able to move things closer if you like. There are toilets just over here in the stairwell, but we'll get things set up in a few minutes and start the film then. So thank you very much, and you're very welcome to come back.